Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, Paperbacks and Lattes. I am Paige and this is my mid-month wrap-up. In the past, I have done a end of the month wrap-up always, but they have been kind of going a little long because I am back to reading more books now that I am listening to audiobooks. So I just decided that I would do a mid-month wrap-up during the middle of the month and then an end of the wrap-up at the end of the month. So I hope you guys like this better. So these are the books from April 1st to April 14th, and I read 15 books during that time period. There are 11 5-star reads, 3 4-star reads, and 1 3-star read. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one is Learn My Lesson by Katee Roberts. This is the second book in the Wicked Villain series. These are retelling, like fairy tale retellings of the hero or heroine being with the villain. So it's just like a reimagining, and this centers around Hades, Meg, and Hercules. So in this world, Hades owns the like BDSM club, and Meg is with him, but they kind of trick Hercules. Well, it's more Hades tricking Hercules into thinking that Meg, like he has Meg under his control and that she needs help. So Hercules trades his, life of servitude for hers. So Hercules trades his life, like he gives his life to Hades. He is always going to be under Hades' control in order to save Meg, but then he realizes that Meg is actually with Hades. And this story just revolves around them. It's a menage, and I loved it. I did. I love this one. I liked it. I like this one even better than the first one in the series, which centers around Jasmine and Jafar. But this one was really good. I really loved their dynamic, and I rated it 5 stars. The second one is Don't Kiss the Bride by Carian. Ever since it came out, I think it came out a couple of months ago. Ever since it came out, I've been wanting to read it. This is an age gap, and I love Carian Cole's books, so I was highly anticipating this one, and of course I loved it. I rated it 5 stars. This centers around Lucky and Skylar. So Lucky, that's like his nickname, and he owns his own construction company, and he is working there when he sees they're working near a high school, when he sees a girl, and he helps her out. He notices that she needs help, so just to do a kind deed, he helps her out. But then he starts giving her rides because her car actually breaks down, and so they start to get to know each other. He realizes that her home life is terrible. Her mom is a hoarder, and she just basically crawls in through her window to get to her room, and she locks her room from her mother so her mother can't destroy her space. And she also has an eating disorder, and she needs help, from the doctor, but she can't afford a doctor. And so Lucky sees all of this, and he feels horrible for her. He doesn't like the situation that she's living in. Her mother doesn't care because her mother, has a sickness of her own. So Lucky tells her, hey, if we get married, you'll be on my insurance, so you can go to the doctor and you can stay in my house, where it's nice and clean until you graduate. So Skylar actually takes him up on his offer, and of course, while they're living together, attractions arise and feelings happen, and of course, there's a pretty big age gap between them. So, they try to push it away, but it's inevitable that they are going to be together. And he has family that she really loves because she had been abandoned by her dad earlier, so she has these feelings of abandonment and just not being taken care of. And now she has this guy and his family who are, you know, welcome her with open arms. Although he has issues from his own past that kind of come up. But this book was amazing. I loved it so much. Of course, I rated it 5 stars. I'm so glad that I finally read it. The third is Dead Men Walking by Giana Darling, and I don't know why it took me this long to read this book. It came out in December, and I had all the intentions to read it when it came out. And I added it, you know, on my Kindle Unlimited books, but for some reason I just kept putting off reading it. And I'm like, you know, I've got to read the final, or it's not the final, but it's the latest book she's written in the Fallen Men series. This is a motorcycle club series, and I think all of the books are age gaps, and I adore the series so much. It's my favorite motorcycle club series, and of course my favorite book in the series is the second book with Zeus and Lou, but this one was also amazing. Of course, I don't think Giana Darling could write a book that I do not like, but this follows Priest and Beatrice. Beatrice is actually the sister of Lou. So Lou is with Zeus, the president of the motorcycle club, and Priest is one of the members of the motorcycle club. And Priest is a psychopath. He does, he's like their, you know, the killer, the enforcer of the club, because he does things without feeling. He doesn't hardly have any emotions. But when it comes to Beatrice, he is very protective of her. Something happens in the first of the book where Beatrice is injured, and it's kind of due to Priest's actions unknowingly, and he feels horrible for it. And Lou is very upset with him for endangering her sister's life, but Beatrice, you know, just kind of steps in and says, hey, that's not his fault. And Beatrice has always had a thing for Priest, but Priest he didn't want to like corrupt Beatrice, because Beatrice puts on this air of being an innocent girl, but she really likes the dark side of things. And of course, Priest is perfect for her, and their relationship was amazing. Lou and Zeus's book, the second book in the series, is still my favorite, but all of these books in the series are wonderful, and I'm so glad that I finally read the newest installment of the series. And then I read Penny's Protector by Ruby Dixon. This is number 10 in the Ice Home series. The Ice Home series is a spin-off of the Ice Planet Barbarian series. So you will see a lot of Ruby Dixon in this month because I've just been on a Ruby Dixon kick. But this story revolves around Penny and Spren. So the aliens' names in this series are pretty wild and kind of hard to pronounce, but I'll give it my best. But Penny is a girl from Earth that was abducted by aliens, and now she is on this ice planet with these other type of blue aliens. And Spren drugs Penny with, like, you know, this herb that he puts in her drink, and he steals her to take her off to a cave because he's hoping that he will resonate to her. And Penny is, you know, lets him know how bad that was, you know, that's, you don't do that. And once Spren understands that, you know, the severity of the situation, he is so apologetic and just so heartbroken that he's done this to her. You know, he did it with good intentions, but she let him know that, you know, that is not okay to do that. So since she's been kidnapped, she's like, okay, well, you're gonna take me wherever I want to go. So she has particular places on the ice planet where she wants to go. So she makes him take her, and along the way, you know, they build up this friendship, and then of course resonance happens, and that is, you know, resonance is like their fated mates pretty much. they have this parasite put in them, and the parasite lets them know, it helps them live on the planet, but it also lets them know who they're going to be mated with. So it was another fun book in the Ice Home series, Ice Planet Barbarians World, and I rated it 5 stars. And then I read Barbarians Treasure, which is number 19 in the Ice Planet Barbarians. I read most of the Ice Planet Barbarians, but I realized that there were a couple that I haven't read, the newest ones in the series, so I went ahead and started reading those. This one, Barbarians Treasure, follows Megan and Cashal. So Megan is part of the original group of women that was abducted from Earth, and now it's on this ice planet. And it's been like 8 years since they have landed on this ice planet, and so it kind of shows like a present, you know, so you see them at present time, but then she flashes back, you know, it shows like their story, how they met and how they came to be with their resonance and everything back when they first landed on the ice planet. So this kind of is a flashback story of how it all happened. It was good. I rated it 4 stars because the ones that kind of like flash back and tell their stories aren't as exciting to me, but it's still good. It's still an Ice Planet Barbarian, a good Ice Planet Barbarians book, but not the best. And then I read number 20 in the Ice Planet Barbarians, which is a Barbarians Bride, and this follows Nora and Dagesh. And this is like the same exact situation. It shows them in the present time, but then it flashes back to like 8 years before when they first met and had their story. And their story is more on the, of course, these are all erotic books, but this is like her story of when they are together and he is just so careful with her, but she needs more. Like she's more on the, you know, she's more on like the BDSM type of side of things. And then here's just this sweet, giant, cuddly alien that, you know, is so soft and protective with her. And she has to kind of teach him what she needs and what she likes. And that is kind of their story. I also rated it 4 stars. And then I totally switched gears and I read Making Faces by Amy Harmon. Oh my goodness, this was such an emotional book. This was such an emotional story, and I cried. I have to tell you, I cried so hard reading this book. Oh my goodness. There's just so many components to the story that's heartbreaking. But it also makes into such a lovely book, and I rated it 5 stars. So this is about Ambrose and Fern. That's the hero and the heroine of the story, and it shows them, it actually shows Fern and her best friend Benny, I think that's his name, from childhood. So they're best friends, and then they meet Ambrose. Ambrose goes to their school, and this just shows them from, you know, children growing up through into adulthood. And Fern and Benny has, I forget what it's called. It's a condition where it makes his muscles weak, and then eventually he is in a wheelchair. But boy, that does not stop him. Like he doesn't let anything stand in his way. He goes for what he wants, and he has such a fun personality. And I laughed so many times at things that he would say. And he and Fern are actually cousins, and they're best friends. Fern sticks with him, she helps him, and Fern is considered not a beautiful person. Like growing up, she has, you know, just she doesn't have like the natural beauty of, you know, typical girls or whatever, and that has always kind of held her back, and so she just doesn't think of herself in a positive light. And then Ambrose is somebody that she has crushed on for a long time, but he's never really reciprocated her feelings. And then Ambrose graduates high school, and he and his, I think it's 4 best friends, they decide to join the military, and they get shipped overseas, and all of his friends die in like a bombing except for him, but he's badly injured, and when he comes back home, he's badly scarred, and he doesn't let anybody see his face. You know, he stays hidden. He's very bitter about the situation. He also has survivor's guilt because he is the only one out of his friends that survived, and he was the one that kind of pushed them to join the military. And Fern is the one that kind of, you know, steps in and starts to, you know, bring him back, you know, bring him back into the world, you know, be his light in his dark world. And this is their romance, and it was amazing. Their romance is amazing. It just has a lot of heartbreaking parts in this book that will make you cry. So just be prepared for a very emotional story, but it is also really good at the same time. And then Tori from It's a Novel Life and Sam from Sam Reads a Little, they have a read along with the Blood and Ash series. So I've had Blood and Ash on my Kindle for a long time. So, you know, like, well, this is a perfect time to read along with it because the third book is about to be released. So I went ahead and picked up Blood and Ash, or From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a fantasy book, and I know I'm not going to be able to really explain this. And plus, I don't want to give away too much of the story, the plot line, because I just feel like if you go into this as blind as you can, it helps. You know, you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't really know. I don't even want to give you who this is the romance between, because, you know, you're kind of guessing it along the way. So I really don't want to ruin that for anybody. But this follows Poppy. She is a maiden, and she is like chosen. And so since she's a maiden, she only can wear white. She's kept like in her room all the time. She has to wear a veil to hide her face, which she is scarred from an attack on her life when she was little. But that's not the reason why she wears the veil. Obviously, it's because so people can't see her. And it's this whole big world that you know, you just have to read to like understand. But she is being protected to become this maiden that's been chosen. But she's not just what she seems to be. Like, her guard has taught her how to fight, so she knows how to defend herself. And she's way more than what she seems to be. And one night she sneaks out and she goes to like this brothel type of place, and she meets a guy there. And I really don't want to tell you much more after that because I feel like it would be spoiling the story. But her life becomes very interesting after that, and that happens like in the first chapter, so that's not really very far into the book at all. But you will see this whole world develop, and I know I cannot explain it to you without being here for a million years and without spoiling the story. So just let me tell you, it's a very involved fantasy world, but it's also, there's a romance in there, and I love the romance. Of course, I rated this 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Then I read Ever After Always by Chloe Liese. This is the 3rd book in the Bergman Brothers series. I've been working my way through the Bergman Brothers. Cannot wait for the next one because I'm all caught up now. And I adore the series. I love it so much. This is about the Bergman family. So the series is called The Bergman Brothers, but this book actually follows one of the Bergman sisters, and her name is Freya, and she is married to Aiden, but they are having marriage difficulties. Their marriage, you know, is not doing so good, and Freya asks Aiden to leave. And so he leaves, but he comes back, you know, because he kind of like runs out of a place to stay. And they both decide to fight for their marriage, and they go to marriage counseling. And there's just a lot of miscommunication is a big thing that they have to work on. And Aiden suffers from anxiety. In each of the books, there is some type of representation of something. And so this book is a really good representation of anxiety. And so they've decided to try to have a baby, but Aiden doesn't come. He has a kind of a bad background of being in poverty. And so he just has this intense fear of having his family in poverty. And so he is just working so many extra hours trying to start this new app with his partner to generate more money for their family, because he just has this intense fear of not being able to provide for his family. And he doesn't share this with Freya, his wife, which is a lot of the miscommunication. But I mean, it happens. It happens where, you know, couples, they get into this rut where they, you know, and of course he has insecurities, and he doesn't want to let her know that, you know, that he's dealing with all this, because he doesn't want to be a burden for her. And then she doesn't tell him a lot of what she's feeling, because she knows he has anxiety and that he deals with a lot. So she doesn't want to be a burden to him. And so there's just a lot of this back and forth, you know, where they are just miscommunicating, but they start going to therapy, and things start to get better. And then they have this family vacation where it's her parents' anniversary, and so they make it into like this anniversary trip to, I think it's Hawaii. And on the trip, they grow closer together. And this story was amazing. I cried during this book because, you know, I'm married, and I can understand some, you know, things that they went through. And it made me emotional because, you know, I could understand where both of, you know, how their outlook on their marriage was. And it really hit home for me a lot of the times. And I just enjoyed this book. Of course, I loved all of the books in the Bergman Brothers series. They all have a special place in my heart. Of course, I rated this one 5 stars as well. And then I picked back up in the Blood and Ash series. I read the next one, which is Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the second book in the series, and I loved it as well. Of course, I rated it 5 stars. This just continues on in Poppy's journey, and of course, a lot has happened by this time, and I can't tell you anything. I can't tell you a single thing about it, or else it would ruin the first book and give away many spoilers. So I'm just gonna let you know that I loved it, and I cannot wait until the third one comes out. I think it comes out on April 20th, if I'm not mistaken. I already have it pre-ordered. I'm like, you know, I have to read the third book, which I think I heard that it's going, like, it's not just gonna end at the third book. So, and they tend to leave off on cliffhangers, so, or like big things happen and you're like, I gotta know what happens next. So we'll see, but I am looking forward to the third book. I read Abel by Katee Robert. This is the first book in the Sabine Valley series. So this is about this guy. He is a brother, and he has 7 brothers, or he's one of 7 brothers. I only rated this book 3 stars because I was highly confused. I'm still confused. This world, I feel like if this had been a longer book and Katee Robert if she had gone deeper into explaining like the past and what this world is, I feel like that would have been better. But I just am left with like confusion and questions because I just don't understand. I feel like this is a spin-off series, but I don't think it is because I couldn't find where it's a spin-off of anything else. But they're in this world where Abel and his brothers have been wronged in the past, and they were sent off, they were excommunicated from their like town or whatever they lived in. And now they are back, and there's this day where they can fight, and then whatever, if you win the fight, you get whatever that you wanted. Well, he fights like 7 or 8 times, one for him and each of his brothers. And he wins a wife for each of his brothers, and himself included. And the wife that he wins for himself is actually his best friend's wife. And his best friend is like, or his ex-best friend, they're not friends anymore, but his best friend is like, hey, that's my wife, I'll fight you for the whole, like, they call it a faction, but it's like each of these families have like these companies. I don't, this is part of the confusion. And so Abel fights him and wins. So Abel wins him as well. So this this story is also another menage. So this is between Abel, Eli, and Harlow. And he wins them. And this, of course, is a hate to love situation because they're all enemies. But then as they grow closer, and they all kind of like, hey, we have this one goal in mind, so let's work together for that goal. And they grow closer. And of course, Abel and Eli had been best friends in the past. So, they kind of remember that's what, they start to, have their friendship again. And it was good, but not the best, because the world is very confusing to me. I don't know. The next one follows another of the brothers, Broderick, but I want to read it, but then I don't know. The world is confusing to me. There's not a lot of explanation behind things, so I don't know. It was just an okay book. I was hoping for better, but I don't know. Maybe I'll read the second book and be further enlightened, but I rated this one 3 stars. Then the next book I read is Eastern Lights by Brittainy Cherry. This is one, of course, that I rated 5 stars. I don't think I could rate a Brittainy Cherry book less than 5 stars. This is the second book in the Compass series, and this follows Connor and Aaliyah. So Connor and Aaliyah meet one night. It was like a Halloween night. They're both dressed up, and she has just gotten out of this bad a relationship where her boyfriend cheated on her. And he tells her that, he's very captivated with her, and he tells her, I'm going to spend all night, and I'm going to make you fall in love with me to get over him. And so they make this pact between themselves, and they spend all night, getting to know each other and just having a good time. They each take each other to places, their favorite places, and places that they'll love. And they just have this very amazing adventure on Halloween night. But then they decide not to tell themselves each other's names and let fate, decide whether they will ever meet again. Because he is a businessman, because he has come from this past where he's had nothing, and he and his mother have had to, they've not had very much. His mother has had cancer twice, and he just has a lot of scars from the past. So he is just, working hard to be very successful in life. So he knows that he doesn't have time for a girlfriend. And, she's just gotten out of this relationship, so they go their separate ways. Well, a couple of years later, she is engaged to this guy, and the guy works for Connor, the guy she met on Halloween. And then they meet each other at like one of the company parties. And they're like, oh, hey, it's you. And he just can't believe that she's with this guy, because the guy she's engaged to is a complete douchebag. But she has her reasons, and in part, most of that is that she has always felt alone in life. She's never had family because she was abandoned. She was raised in the foster system, so she's never had a family. She's never felt like she belonged to anywhere or to anyone. And this guy is there, you know, offering her a family. And of course, she loves his parents as well, and they love her. And so she felt, you know, she feels like she has found a family to belong to. And things happen. She has a requirement for her job is that she has to get a interview with Connor, and he doesn't give interviews to anyone. But her boss says, you know, if you want to keep this job, you have to get an interview with Connor. And so the more time they spend around each other, and then she moves in with him at one point. And so just them being around each other, of course, draws them to each other, and there's already an attraction there from, you know, years before, and it's just built upon. And but they both still struggle with things from their past that kind of, you know, stands in their way. But this was their romance, and of course it was freaking amazing because it's Brittainy C. Cherry. The next one I read is Justin for Erin by Susan Stoker. This is number 9 in the Badge of Honor Texas Heroes series. So this series follows these cops and firefighters as they, you know, each one of them has a romance, but they're very like suspense heavy, kind of, because the girl in each of the stories always ends up in some type of trouble that they have to rescue her from. And I just am a sucker for that type of situation. I love where, you know, they're very protective alpha males, and they just, you know, it's like they live for their girl, and they'll do anything to, you know, help her, rescue her. And I don't know, I just really love this series so much. This one I only rated 4 stars because it just wasn't as good as the other ones, but I still enjoyed it a lot. So this follows Erin and Connor. And so Connor is a game warden in Texas, and Erin is a professor at a college, and she also has a second job. She bartends some nights at this bar where he and his friends frequently, you know, visit. And he is just highly attracted to her, and she finally, you know, after a few months, she invites him on this canoeing trip. So that she takes, like, once a year, she takes some of her students on this trip where they canoe through the, you know, on the river. And so, you know, he happily agrees to go. And so they spend this trip together, getting to know each other. And then after that, they start to date. Well, they start to date, and he, you know, she has issues. She has this eating issue because she has been overweight in the past. She's had gastric bypass surgery, and she just has this fear of like eating around other people. And so that is one of the issues that she deals with constantly, and it's a big thing for her. And he, you know, he introduces her to his family, but and they love her. But then something happens where she is kidnapped, and he has to go, you know, rescue her along with like the other police and firefighters that are his friends. And it's, you know, him rescuing her and her trying to get over, or, you know, dealing with more of her fears on, you know, her eating disorder. And it was a good book. It's another, you know, highly dramatic book in the series, but of course I loved it. The next one I read is Mari's Mistake by Ruby Dixon. This is number 11 in the Ice Home series, so I went back to Ruby Dixon. And this is between Mari and Tachai. And Mari met Tachai when, of course, you know, she's on this ice planet, but she and her friend accidentally, they're trying to destroy this spaceship. And so they are in this spaceship, and so they get taken to like another part of this planet to where it's like a volcano. And so it's like this tropical island. Well, there she resonates to Tachai. But they have to escape off of the volcano because it's about to erupt again. And he is injured. This creature attacks him. And so he is badly injured. He's fighting for his life. Like, he is very badly injured. And they go, you know, they go back to the ice planet, over to the part where their friends are. And the healer says, you know, she's having trouble healing him because his kui is, you know, trying to, they're resonating to each other, and it's kind of hindering the healing process. And so Mari is just like, do whatever you have to do to save him. And so the healer turns off the kui, so they're not resonating to each other anymore. Well, he heals and they are still mated, but since their kuis are turned off, everything feels wrong to her. His touch feels wrong. His touch feels wrong. She doesn't, you know, she feels like, you know, they're not, even though they are supposed to be together, since the kui is not, you know, is turned off, it's just wrong now. So she realizes she made a mistake and that it never, you know, never should have happened. And this is them trying to figure out a way to be together because, you know, he, of course, is still highly in love with her. And she's in love with him because, you know, that's her mate. But, you know, they have these issues that they're trying to work on. And, it was a really good story. It was quite different than all the other ones, and I really enjoy Ruby Dixon. Can even all these stories on this ice planet, she can just make each one different from the others, and I really appreciate that. And I rated this one 5 stars. And then the last book for my mid-month wrap-up is Raven's Return. This is number 12 in the Ice Home series by Ruby Dixon. This centers around Raven, and she is accidentally like kidnapped by this outcast, and the guy that's just been crushing on her, his name is Yuldron, and he comes to rescue her. And Raven, they both have secrets that they're keeping from each other. Raven has secrets, you know, and he has secrets, and they think that, you know, they can't be together because of these things. But then, you know, finally they let each other know about these, you know, their huge secrets that are keeping them from each other. And of course they each think, you know, like, this is ridiculous. So they end up being together. They choose to be together even before resonance ever happens. And it does eventually happen, but they choose to be each other's mates before they're ever fated to be each other's mates. And I rated this one 5 stars as well. So those are the 15 books that I read in the first part of April. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read any of these or if any of them are interesting to you. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.